Rose stormed into her chamber and slammed the door. She flung herself onto the bed upon entering, fiercely squeezing a pillow. Her head felt ablaze in spite of the coldness of the room. She snorted in disdain as she thumped the pillow.
He's a rotten man, completely horrid. Why is Grand Duke Bjorn's demeanour today so different than it was last night? He seems well and truly smitten, but today he's just as cold towards me as ever. It's barely been a day. The deposed queen must have stirred up some trouble again.
Rose was convinced it was Bronwyn's fault. Grand Duke Bjorn must have revealed his intentions to her, and then Bronwyn rushed to him in the morning, scheming to win him over. She had pulled the same trick with Aldrich before, and now she was at it with Grand Duke Bjorn.
She puts on airs as though she's a dignified lady, but in truth she's no better than a snake in the grass. She loathes the fact that the Grand Duke fancies me. I know that there are women like that, those always craving attention, but right now I mustn't worry about it.
She rejoiced that a strapping man like Grand Duke Bjorn was interested in her, but wondered if she could use him to her advantage even more with Aldrich. She set the pillow aside and got out of bed, realizing that the more pressing matter was what Oscar had said. She bit her nails and scowled.
What could that document be?
And then it dawned on her, just as an unexpected visitor arrived at the door.
Who is it?
His Majesty King Aldrich wants to see you. Rose breathed a sigh of relief. Her plan had worked. He was ready to beg for her favor after seeing her with the Grand Duke. It was the perfect timing to have him eradicate this pesky document. She exited her chambers and headed out to see Aldrich. Rose sat on Aldrich's couch with a knowing smile. She was planning at first to nurture and then quash his jealousy. Then she would turn him against that evil Oscar. But to her surprise, his first statement was a command, not a plea. You are the queen now, Rose. Be mindful of your behavior. Racking her brain, she concluded that it was just a manifestation of his jealousy. She suppressed a laugh inwardly.
Of course, Your Majesty.
I do not jest. I don't expect you to behave as regally as Bronwyn, due to the experience gap, but at least please ensure that your shortcomings go unnoticed.
Shortcomings? What do you mean?
You attended another nation's royal wedding as a distinguished guest. Did you have to mention Bronwyn's infertility in front of everyone?
What I said is true.
Regardless, such remarks should not be made in front of a newlywed couple. Furthermore, it could have escalated into a diplomatic conflict. Rose widened her eyes. The image of Aldrich searching for Bronwyn flashed before her. A piercing pain, akin to a fine blade, struck her heart.
Your Majesty, do you not care at all about what she did to me? The deposed queen suggested that I address Your Majesty's next concubine as sister, and her brother threatened me.
Threatened you? How? Oscar's threat was twofold. First was his mention of Rose's concealed child. The second was the presence of the slave trade certificate in Elisaria. Unaware that Aldrich was already privy to the existence of her first child, Rose opted to divulge only the information concerning the slave trade certificate.
The deposed queen's brother spoke of a document from my past.
So he does have it. The disappearance of the slave trade certificate, once in Viscount Rothescue's possession, had long perplexed Aldrich. Given the impending birth of their child, addressing Rose's past required cautious handling.
I don't know. He only mentioned that it was in the palace in Anasaria.
I searched for it there, but I couldn't find it.
Is he not just trying to scare me? Please, explain to me what's going on.
It's true that Oscar took the certificate from Viscount Rothescue, but then it disappeared. I scoured every nook, but I couldn't find it. Rose covered her face with both hands. How could this have occurred? Could it be that some passer-by chanced upon the certificate? Suddenly overwhelmed by stress, Rose clutched her gown, fell to the ground, and screamed.
I was enjoying my lunch when Henry appeared, his face paler than I'd ever seen it.
I'm sorry, Your Majesty. I received an urgent border report.
It's all right. It's customary to be engrossed in matters of state, wedding or not. I spoke with an air of composure, accompanied by a smile. However, something felt amiss. Henry, are you all right? I was concerned. Had the magic stone bad adversely affected him? After a brief hesitation, Henry finally spoke.
You may find it ridiculous, but I suspect Grand Duke Bjorn slipped something peculiar into my drink yesterday.
Grand Duke Bjorn? During your private conversation?
Yes.
Is this possibly linked to your seclusion in your chambers?
Yes, it must have been an unusual potion. I sensed neither enchantment nor any poisonous element. After imbibing it, I experienced what felt like sleep paralysis.
Unable to continue, Henry cast his gaze downward. From his account, I deduced the nature of the potion Grand Duke Bjorn had administered. The love potion. Oh dear. Are you still experiencing the effects of the potion? Grand Duke Bjorn had asserted that the potion's effects were short-lived, no more than a week. Yet, considering the Grand Duke's own struggle with the side effects, I harbored concerns. I was reluctant to witness Henry undergo the same tribulations Grand Duke Bjorn faced, since falling in love with me due to the potion. More than that, if Henry were to abruptly leave me for another.
No, the potion's effects subsided at dawn. Spontaneously.
Then why are you so perturbed?
My gaze started to wander as soon as I was wed.
Henry spoke with difficulty, clenching his fists and gazing down at the table. His pupils quivered, and shortly afterward the corners of his eyes reddened.
My queen, I didn't mean to hurt you. I don't want to be as faithless as your ex-husband. I'm too ashamed to meet your gaze.
Henry, it's not your fault.
I love you, my queen. I love you. I can't bear that I got carried away by a potion like that.
My attempt to comfort Henry resulted in confusion. I withdrew my hand, puzzled by his proclamation. I couldn't fathom what he had just confessed, given his state.
Do you not love me anymore?
Tears welled up in his eyes, threatening to cascade down his cheeks. No, it's not that at all. I struggled to grasp the full extent of his words. Was I the first person he encountered after ingesting the potion? It seems that the potion is still having an effect, Henry.
No, the potion's effects really did wear off at dawn.
But it is not possible that you love me that much.
But it is, my queen.
Henry reached out, lightly grasping my dress. I gently removed his hand. You seem a little emotional right now. First, calm down.
I'm not doing this out of excitement, and it's not because of the potion either.
Henry gazed at me with a hint of sadness. I cupped his cheeks with my hands. For now, Just calm down." He buried his head in my dress. It was heart-wrenching to witness him in such a state. I began to grow angry at Grand Duke Bjorn. After enduring the potion's effects personally, how could he subject Henry to the same? Once Henry had calmed down, he explained to me the urgent border reports he'd been responding to.
"We've received reports that the Eternal Thousand Bandits are expanding their presence."
The Eternal Thousand Bandits? I've not heard that name since my time in Elisaria. They're approaching us.
"They are not targeting us directly, but they seem to be increasing their overall scale."
My brother can assist against the Eternal Thousand Bandits. He's experienced dealing with them. In fact, eliminating them in combat is one of his favorite hobbies. At my suggestion, Henry gave a sly smile.
Sir Leaf made the same recommendation.
We finished a calm lunch, and I assured my husband that I loved him no matter what. But I knew where I was headed next, to see Grand Duke Bjorn. I approached the door of Grand Duke Bjorn's residence and knocked. After a brief pause, he opened the door, dressed in his usual elegance, though he looked a bit paler than usual. Our eyes met.
"Your Majesty."
There was a noticeable lack of vigor in his eyes. Was he unwell? Under usual circumstances, I might have left and arranged to speak to him when he felt better. However, the gravity of the situation compelled me to address it right away. Before I could speak, Grand Duke Bjorn beat me to an apology, lowering his gaze.
"I am sorry. Forgive me."
"Do you know why I'm angry?" He nodded helplessly, prompting me to adopt the sternest expression. "I'm very, very disappointed." My cold words caused his head to bow even further. Contemplating my next words, I weighed various approaches. Do I express my disappointment again? Do I convey ignorance of his true nature? Do I accuse him of attempting to harm me similarly to my past sufferings with Aldrich? As these thoughts flickered through my mind, Grand Duke Bjorn's face darkened, seemingly sensing the unspoken insults. Was he anticipating the reprimands I hadn't yet voiced? After careful consideration, I found the words. "Pretend you don't know me from now on, unless it's for work."
"Your Majesty, please!"
"Despite the lingering effects of the potion and your evident suffering from it, you have obligations due to our trade agreement with Ret." Grand Duke Bjorn, startled by my words, gripped the doorframe with such force that it broke. His eyes darkened, and his trembling eyelids betrayed his inner turmoil. He bit his lip, closed his eyes, and after a brief pause, uttered the words,
"Why aren't you thinking about anything now?"
His question confirmed my unspoken suspicions. Shocked, I took a step back. I recoiled. Grand Duke Bjorn, sensing my unease, looked stunned for a moment. When our eyes met again, he confessed in a subdued voice,
"It is my ability, but it is also my weakness. Now you know."
I shook my head rapidly and walked away, unable to fathom the idea that he could read minds. I walked through the beautifully landscaped front gardens of the Celestial Palace. My gaze followed the line of stately carriages gracefully departing along the ivory road. Distinguished wedding guests bid their farewells, departing one by one with regal grace. My parents had deliberately delayed their arrival, avoiding any interaction with Rose and Aldrich. As the final carriage disappeared from view, I anxiously awaited their arrival. Once alone, I resumed my stroll, seeking solace in the quiet alcoves of the garden. When I passed the detached palace, I was surprised to see a familiar figure. Aldrich. I came to an abrupt halt, as if an unseen force seized my ankle. Questions swirled in my mind. Why was he standing near the detached palace? Did he presume I still resided there? Or is there another motive? He turned his head towards me, and our eyes locked. He approached me with purpose, dressed in a more relaxed suit than the one at the wedding. He was devoid of the scent of spirits. I relaxed a little, knowing he was sober. "Your Majesty, do you depart today?" I addressed him as I would any other noble person. There was no use in pretending our relationship was something other than colleagues at best, and I would respect that relationship. We stood a few more moments in silence, his countenance twisted with unspoken thoughts. Instead of responding, he remained silent. After a moment, I chose to continue on my way. Clearly there is nothing to say, so I shall take my leave. As I walked away, memories of past efforts to maintain appearances with Aldrich flooded my mind. His low voice halted my progress.
"Bronwyn."
I halted, meeting his gaze with an expressionless face. It was as if my body hadn't caught up with my mind. Although Henry had reawakened my physical body, I had originally learned to use it as a woman with Aldrich. Perhaps he still had a hold on me. I was seething with anger, but I had to admit he was quite beautiful to look at as well. "If you have something to say, say it, if you must."
"Do people not make mistakes?"
I sensed an underlying meaning concerning our shared past. Aldrich, in a rare moment of vulnerability, was baring his soul. This was a side of him I had not seen in ages.
"My mistake was arrogantly planning everything on my own. I should have confided in you. I apologize for not doing so."
Though our marital bonds are severed, you must ensure the welfare of Elisaria.
"I love you."
You cannot be serious right now.
"I love you."
What purpose does such a declaration serve now? Did you think it would bring me back to your side?
No.
So, you just want to torture me? Why? Why?
So that you may laugh at me. I wished to reveal myself as a fool who arrogantly left you and instantly regretted it. I want you to know that I am suffering from realizing my true feelings too late.
I began to remember every moment I lived in Elisaria. The times he doubted me, the pains he caused me by siding with Rose, the day he left me alone in front of everyone to go after Rose, the expulsion of my brother, and finally, the day he asked me for a divorce. Then I remembered back to before Rose arrived. The dinners we had together before he brought her home. The time he smiled, saying that the best queen in the world was his wife. The coronation day, our wedding, and even the day we got engaged. How could you inflict such pain upon me? We were supposed to be together forever. He raised his hand, but instead of wiping away my tears, he clenched his fist.
Remember this moment. Laugh at your wretched ex-husband who now seeks to cling to you. On the return trip, a heavy silence permeated the carriage. Rose's earlier excitement had dissipated, and Aldrich remained silent, gazing out of the window. Rose placed her hand on her bulging belly, stealing glances at Aldrich. Seeing his continued silence, she couldn't bear it any longer.
Your Majesty, is there anything you would like to say to me?
When he looked at her, she lifted her hand from her belly. After an odd silence, Aldrich smiled warmly and lowered his arm, leaning against the window. What's wrong? Are you bored?
I'm thinking about that certificate. Why didn't you say anything to me?
What is there to say?
You're not sorry you didn't tell me?
When you're even a little stressed, don't you cry because your belly hurts? If I had told you, you might have collapsed from the shock. Rose pouted, which made Aldrich smile. He sighed and spoke in a soft tone. Come on, don't be mad. Is there something you want?
Do you think my mood will be improved by a gift? Do you think I am a puppy that calms down just with a piece of meat?
You're more lovable than a puppy.
Well, that's true.
In any case, it's kind of you to say that you don't need anything now. How thoughtful. I understand your words. When Aldrich looked away again, resting his chin on the windowsill, Rose's eyes widened.
Do you toy with me? You won't give me anything just because I don't need it.
Once the king seemed to be deep in thought again, Rose finally burst into tears with a small cry. Why are you crying again?
I hate you, Your Majesty. Don't make fun of me.
When did I make fun of you?
Just now. You said you wouldn't give me anything.
I thought I understood you didn't need it.
I never meant to say that.
Rose spoke sternly, but Aldrich had a half-smiling, half-twisted expression.
What's wrong?
Nothing. What gift do you want?
Your Majesty must do something for me.
What can I do to improve your mood?
It's something to do with Queen Bronwyn.
Hearing her name, Aldrich hit the side of the carriage involuntarily. Why do you name Bronwyn?
Don't compare me to her again.
When have I compared you to her?
You said harshly that you didn't expect me to measure up to Queen Bronwyn.
I see. I won't do it any more. So is that all right? Are we done with this? Rose just nodded at Aldrich's new promise. While Aldrich and Rose were returning to Elisaria, Henry called a few close aides, including Haxon, into his office to discuss the aftermath of proclaiming himself the king of the Western Empire. Even before the formal proclamation, the Celestial Isles already bore the semblance of an empire. As it transitioned officially, all documents and diplomatic processes needed a comprehensive overhaul. Henry swiftly flipped through the documents, reviewing details of meetings with diplomatic delegations during the wedding celebrations. Most nations acknowledged the Western Empire and its first king, but discontent lingered among some. He separated the countries into two groups and issued instructions to Haxon. Have a delegation visit this group of countries and this other group alternately. Would it not be better to treat both groups differently, those who honored us and those who did not? We must find out if those who honored us as an empire did so merely in the moment. Yes, Your Majesty. I understand. Have a report drawn up regarding this. Haxon busily organized Henry's classified documents, marking them in different colors and placing them in separate envelopes. He suddenly chuckled. It will be a hellish month for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs with all the work to be done. Isn't Marquis Clifford the reason you can finish it all at once? He is thorough in his work. After ascending to the throne, Henry promptly replaced those he deemed unnecessary and retained only essential personnel, including Marquis Clifford, who had proven himself invaluable. He had served as a trusted aide since the reign of the former king, Wharton, and his queen, Catherine. These thoughts naturally led Henry to the matter of Catherine. He sighed. I must also take care of the matter of my sister-in-law. His Highness Wharton asked you as a last will to take care of your sister-in-law. If Catherine chose to go to Compshire's mansion on her own, I don't think anything would happen. But if you forced her, people would talk about it. Henry chuckled at Haxon's lack of understanding, unaware of Catherine's affections for him. I know, but I'll have to discuss this matter with my wife first. Though Henry chuckled, he felt a heavy weight on his heart. I must not be rash. I do not want her to think of me the way she thinks of Aldrich or Rose. Haxon began to shudder. Haxon, what ails you? I'm not sure. I feel dizzy. These dizzy spells are becoming worrisome. Shall I call the doctor? Perhaps. It has been like this since my return from Elisaria. I feel wounded in mind and body. I feel as though there is something to do with Rose and Aldrich that... I don't know. We'll get a doctor specialized in psychological matters to get to the bottom of this. I'm sure being in bird form for that long cannot have positive effects. Yes. But Haxon couldn't shake that there was something far darker that was escaping him.
Small tea parties and banquets were held for the distinguished guests who still remained in the Celestial Palace. However, the official wedding celebrations were over, so I took some time to make a list of things I wanted to accomplish in the coming days. Check the Royal Palace budget, look at the account ledgers, check employee numbers, positions, salaries, duties. Check the social welfare policies of the Celestial Isles, make preparations for trade with Rhett, investigate Lady Milani's family situation, send a thank you gift to the High Priest, learn more about the history of the Celestial Isles, need aides, need an office. As I wrote, I felt someone gazing at me. It was Cedrica, who was staring at the notebook with her mouth half open. What's wrong? There's so many items. This was not an official document, I just wrote whatever came to my mind. Cedrica continued to stare in amazement at the list. I tapped her arm to get her to stop. She blushed. It's impolite to stare, I gather. Excuse me, Your Majesty. I smiled at her. She was strange, but she was charming. She left the room and I got back to work. But before long, she returned with a basket filled with envelopes. What's this? These are letters for Your Majesty the Queen. They were sent by the young ladies who have a crush on my brother, no doubt. I smiled as I remembered my brother, who was so popular among the beautifully dressed young ladies at my wedding. But Cedrica surprised me. I don't believe so. No. The senders are married ladies, mostly. Married ladies? Perhaps the ladies who love Oscar convinced their mothers to send me letters, so I could help their families to arrange the marriage. I think they're for you, Your Majesty. First, I opened a gold envelope and took out the letter inside. It was neatly folded, and the handwriting was clear and flawless. I read, shocked at its contents. What's it say? One moment. You're being impolite again, Cedrica. After reading several more letters, Matilda entered the room. I saw that she too was carrying a basket filled with envelopes. After reading almost 20 letters, I said confidently, Cedrica, you were right. These letters are not for Oscar. They were sent to me. The letters were cordial and friendly, full of congratulations on the wedding and an interest in approaching me. Immediately after the self-proclamation, the families close to Henry were very nice to me, so I expected the ladies of those families to send me these kinds of letters. But this was more than I expected. It was my understanding that at least half of high society was on Catherine's side. No matter how careful I acted, they would be prejudiced toward me. This was strange, but for the moment I had to respond. Lady Laura, I think it's necessary to get some more stationery. Yes, Your Majesty. Lady Matilda, could you look into this matter? If these ladies really mean well, I would be very grateful. But I can't help consider the alternative. What if they approach me only to then try to stab me in the back? I have to be cautious. Yes, of course, Your Majesty. I was learning that, in my position, it was never the wrong move to be cautious.
Back in her chambers in Elisaria, Rose scurried over to the door to let her guest in.
Hello, Viscount Rothescue.
The night before, she had sent guards to the home of this same man, demanding that he come to her chambers the next morning. The Viscount was perturbed by her demands. He was unhappy not to have the upper hand in this game of cat and mouse, but he obliged as directed.
The matter of the slave trade certificate. Where does it currently reside?
It rests in my possession, of course. Rose narrowed her eyes.
Indeed?
They eyed each other in a psychological standoff. Viscount Rothescue gave her his signature wicked smile. Certainly. Who else could lay claim to it?
It hasn't been misplaced?
No.
Truly?
Yes.
Deception!
Rose shouted and hurled a cup at the wall. It shattered into pieces, fragments scattered across the floor. Are you quite irrational? It appears you finally have lost your mind. Viscount Rothescue clicked his tongue, closing his mouth immediately upon witnessing Rose's stern countenance. He expected her to change once she assumed this position, but it was like a monster had been unleashed.
Are you certain you want to address me this way? I will direct the next cup directly at your other ear.
Rose picked up another cup, but Viscount Rothescue did not budge. You think you know things. Think again. He leaned in closer. Slave.
How dare you speak to me like that? I am the Queen. Leave. Leave here at once.
Rose glared at him, removed the ring from her finger, and tossed it at him violently, but he surprised her by catching it. He examined the jeweled ring, sparkling beautifully, and fingered its band. This will be perfect for Liliana. He got up, still smiling, and headed towards the door, as directed. As soon as he stepped out into the corridor, Viscount Rothescue's expression turned terribly dark. How dare she be so arrogant? Although others regarded her as the hope of commoners or a real-life fairy tale, to Viscount Rothescue, Rose was nothing more than a pawn he could manipulate. I'll have to teach that slave a lesson. Once he returned home, he turned to his son, who was holding the silver-haired baby. Alan, request an audience with Rose. An audience? I'm sure she would love to lay eyes upon her son. Take Isidore and present Rose with his little face. Alan's eyes widened. But, Father, you're an insensitive, indifferent man. How can you not understand her feelings? Her feelings? She acts cold on the outside, but deep down she is not like that. She even gave us this mansion so we could take care of her son, whose face she has never seen. She must really want to see him." Alan brightened at Viscount Rothescue's words, though he was still not sure what to believe. Perhaps Rose is still kind and affectionate, Father. But the baby looks a lot like her. Won't people also find his unusual hair colours suspicious? Just hide his hair with a cap. Don't you have those bonnets that babies wear? Yes. All right. Hurry to apply for an audience. There are many people interested. Yes, Father. Alan left with the baby in his arms. Viscount Rothescue smiled wickedly as he watched him leave.
Late at night, after combing my hair and putting on a gown, I entered the shared bedroom. Henry quietly emerged from behind the door and lifted me up. In the blink of an eye, both my feet were floating in the air. Henry!
Did I surprise you?
I grabbed onto his neck, and he did a little turn with me in his arms. He smiled and leaned his head against mine. Why do you always sneak up on me? I wondered if this was a bird-headed tribe habit. Henry walked to the bed and put me down gently. As I sat beside him, he stroked my hair. His gentle touch made my eyes close. How long were you hiding there?
About 5 minutes?
5 minutes?
10?
You were hanging out behind the door for 10 minutes. Henry pressed the soft part of my fingers and smiled.
Yes, my queen. My wife. How was your day? Is there anything new?
Yes, good thing you asked. I told him about the agreement I had made with Grand Duke Bjorn, and Henry's expression became rigid.
I see.
Do you agree?
Of course I do.
If you have any other ideas.
No, that's fine.
But that expression, something displeases you?
Ah, I just thought my queen would tell me something else.
What did you expect?
Do you want a hint?
Yes.
We are married.
Yes, of course. There are no secrets between us. I'm sorry I didn't tell you earlier about the plans I made. Please, read over my list of plans. I handed him the list I had made with Cedrica earlier, eager to see his thoughts.
It really is a good plan, wife.
But you still have the same expression.
I'll get you the aids and have the office ready as soon as possible.
Thank you.
No, actually I think it's better for my queen to pick the right people.
I agree. Thank you again. Why do you still look disappointed?
I just thought you would share something more personal.
I am lost.
My queen, the first thing you told me was very important. The second was very helpful, but what I wanted to hear was something more personal.
More personal? He sighed, laid on his side, and extended his arm. The problem was, his arm landed right on my pillow. Despite my repeated glances between his arm and his face, he didn't pull it away. Henry, this is my space.
What?
If you want to sleep with your arm outstretched, lie a little further to the left. The bed is big enough, so you can do that. I stared at him, and he suddenly burst into laughter. What?
If you aren't going to tell me you love me, you can at least use me as a pillow. In the dimly lit chamber, the air was thick with tension. King Aldrich, his face shadowed, summoned Baron Lant for a covert task. Lord Oscar claims Rose's slave trade certificate is inside the Imperial Palace. Find it and bring it to me. Baron Lant's eyes widened, sensing the gravity of the request.
Is that true, Your Majesty?
I'm not sure. That's what Oscar told Rose. The possibility loomed that Oscar, driven by his deep-seated animosity towards Rose, had fabricated the story. Yet the undeniable truth was that Oscar had once possessed the slave trade certificate, and now it had vanished into the shadows of uncertainty. You must search carefully, quietly. Otherwise this could become known.
Yes, Your Majesty.
The stakes were high. If the certificate surfaced before the birth of Rose's child, it would be catastrophic. Even afterward, its revelation would cast a dark shadow over the Empire. Aldrich's eyes narrowed as he contemplated the potential chaos. The certificate must be found, whatever the cost. Amidst the echoing corridors of the palace, Queen Rose embarked on a solitary quest. Her steps, once light and graceful, now carried the weight of her burden, the elusive slave trade certificate. A noble bowed as she passed. "Greetings to Your Majesty the Queen." The words, while respectful, only served to remind Rose of her constrained freedom. Each bow, each polite greeting was a reminder of her gilded cage.
Where could it be? Is it in that corner over there?
The frustration was evident in her voice, each step echoing her vexation. The role of queen, once thought to be an emblem of power, now felt like shackles hindering her search.
I need help. As soon as possible. The walls are closing in. Quickly.
Her thoughts were interrupted by the sight of a resplendent carriage making its way toward the main palace. The carriage, distinct and grand, veered off the path leading to the southern palace, an unusual deviation from the norm. Rose's eyes narrowed, her curiosity piqued. The carriage, under the weight of her gaze, came to a sudden halt. Who could be in such a carriage? And why were they heading straight for the heart of the palace? Tension prickled the air as Rose confronted the coachman, her regal presence commanding, yet betrayed by a hint of uncertainty.
Excuse me, who is in that carriage?
The coachman's response was hesitant, his eyes darting around as if searching for an escape from the Queen's piercing gaze.
It's Miss Schuyler, Your Majesty.
Miss Schuyler?
The name meant nothing to Rose. In her new role, she had quickly learned the vastness of the noble landscape, each name a puzzle piece in an ever-expanding board.
Who's Miss Schuyler?
Again the coachman faltered, his reluctance now bordering on disrespect. Rose's frown deepened, her patience wearing thin. She banged on the coach walls.
I don't know who you are, but you have no manners. Come out and pay your respects right now.
The moment was heavy with anticipation, before the carriage door abruptly swung open. Yellow Shoes emerged first, followed by a young girl, her age similar to that of Liliana. Rose's prepared reprimand hung unsaid in the air as she took in the girl's appearance. The girl's gaze was fierce, a silent challenge in her eyes. Though Rose was certain their paths had never crossed, the girl looked at her as if she were a long-time adversary. Rose's anger flared like a tempest at the girl's audacity. The very air seemed to crackle with her fury.
Who do you think you are to look at the Queen like that?
The coachman, caught between fear and duty, hastily intervened, his voice trembling.
Miss Schuyler, this is Her Majesty the Queen. Hurry up and pay your respects.
The girl, however, remained undaunted, her gaze unyielding, her voice carrying an edge sharper than steel.
You are not the Queen I know.
The audacity of the statement, the boldness of her tone, only fanned the flames of Rose's ire. She stepped forward, her posture rigid with barely contained anger. Suddenly, Baron Lant appeared, his voice urgent as he broke through the escalating tension.
Your Majesty, Miss Schuyler is a guest of the king.
His words acted like a cold splash of water, halting Rose in her tracks. Her expression shifted from fury to confusion, a whirlwind of emotions playing across her face. The revelation that this girl, who dared defy her, was a guest under the king's protection, left her momentarily speechless. A heavy, tense silence fell over the scene, broken only by Rose's icy question.
King Aldrich's guest!
Yes, Your Majesty.
Rose's eyes narrowed as she scrutinized Schuyler, her voice dripping with barely restrained ire.
And what kind of guest?
You will know later, Your Majesty.
Rose's lips formed a thin line, her anger simmering just beneath the surface.
This girl said that I am not the queen. I demand to know who this wretched girl is.
That is,
Baron Lant looked helplessly between the defiant Schuyler and the incensed Rose, his discomfort palpable. Schuyler stood with a bold, almost arrogant stance, chin raised, eyes unblinking, adding fuel to the already volatile situation.
Miss Schuyler, please, let's start over with this introduction.
For what? I haven't done anything.
Precisely. That is the problem. Show Her Majesty the Queen the proper respect, and we can move on.
As far as I know, Her Majesty the Queen is someone else.
Miss Schuyler!
Baron Lant's face flushed with fury, while Rose stood in bewilderment, pondering the girl's brazen defiance and Baron Lant's evident frustration. Rose could only think,
Who on earth does this girl think she is to refuse in this way? Based on how angry Baron Lant is, I don't think she's a young lady of nobility.
The corridor was filled with a tense silence as Baron Lant led Schuyler toward the king's chambers. Despite the commotion, he knew better than to reprimand her. King Aldrich's direct involvement in summoning Schuyler made the situation delicate. Rose, with a snort of derision, watched the mysterious girl being escorted away. Despite her curiosity, she stepped aside, conceding to the urgency in Baron Lant's demeanor. Schuyler's gaze remained piercing as she passed Rose, a silent challenge in her eyes, before she turned to follow Baron Lant.
Rose is the queen now, so pay attention to your actions.
His advice fell on deaf ears as they traversed the ornate hallway. Schuyler's silence was as telling as her earlier defiance.
Is it really necessary to pretend not to recognize or acknowledge her?
Schuyler's stoic demeanor only deepened Baron Lant's frustration. He couldn't fathom her motivations or the king's interest in her. His mind raced with questions about Schuyler. She seemed an unlikely choice for a royal concubine. Without the backing of a noble house, beauty, or a pleasant personality, her presence in the palace was a puzzle. He also couldn't help but compare her to Rose, whose charm and grace under pressure had won the hearts of many. Schuyler's stark contrast to Rose made her presence all the more baffling.
What role could she possibly play here now?
Baron Lant wondered, his thoughts echoing Schuyler's own confusion. The grand doors to the king's chamber loomed ahead. Schuyler paused, taking a deep breath before stepping into the unknown, with Baron Lant following closely behind. Schuyler cautiously advanced further into the chamber, under the intense gaze of King Aldrich. As she caught her first sight of him, she couldn't help but gasp at his unexpected handsomeness. Skylar's preconceptions about Aldrich had painted him as a villain, the root cause of her beloved Queen Bronwyn's departure. She had envisioned a face marred by meanness and stupidity. Yet, confronting him now, she found his appearance disarmingly charismatic. The king beckoned her forward. "Please, approach. If you stay where you are, it will be difficult to have this conversation." A subtle nudge from Baron Lant urged her forward. With hesitant steps, Skylar approached the king's desk, her apprehension growing with each step. Up close, Aldrich's features were even more striking, unsettling Skylar's emotions. Her thoughts wandered to Bronwyn, imagining her alongside Aldrich. A regal and captivating pair they must have made. A pang of regret and admiration intertwined within her. Lost in her musings, Skylar was jolted back to reality by Aldrich's unwavering gaze. The silence in the room felt oppressive, the king's eyes studying her intently.
Let's get to the point. Why have you summoned me, Your Majesty?
Baron Lant muttered his disapproval, carrying a tone of warning. Yet Aldrich's response was calm, a gesture of his hand dismissing Baron Lant's concerns. The atmosphere in the room shifted subtly, anticipation hanging in the air as Aldrich prepared to speak. "You have no idea?"
I have heard rumours.
"What rumours?"
I heard that I had incurred the king's wrath by being patronized by the queen.
Aldrich's reaction was immediate. His eyebrows arched in surprise, a clear indication of his disbelief.
I also heard that I would be the king's second concubine.
Aldrich's reaction was even more pronounced, his eyebrows rising further before he burst into unrestrained laughter. "Are you serious?"
Which one is true?
Aldrich laughed again at Skylar's bold inquiry, his amusement evident. "Neither one. First, let us be clear, I do not hate the Queen. Second, even if I did, it would be absurd to hate you just because she was your patron. Third, you are far too young to be my concubine."
Then why did you call me here?
"You're smart. Possibly too smart. And talented for sure. I called you here because I think you can help figure out what's causing the sudden decline of mages. Just because your magic disappeared doesn't mean your intelligence disappeared too. It is an unusual case that needs prompt attention." Finishing his explanation, Aldrich turned to Baron Lant. "There are those at the palace who are dedicated to the scientific study of magic. One of them needs an assistant, so I would like to recommend you. Do you agree?"
Yes.
"Baron Lant, take the girl to meet the court sorcerer."
"As you command, Your Majesty."
The air in the room shifted slightly as Skylar took a bold step closer, defying the implicit order to leave. Aldrich's eyes narrowed slightly, a hint of curiosity in his gaze.
Your Majesty.
Aldrich set down his pen, his attention now fully on Skylar. Her audacity to speak up intrigued him.
Please allow me to stay at the Imperial Palace.
Baron Lant, standing a few steps behind, let out a barely audible click of his tongue, clearly disapproving of Skylar's forwardness. Aldrich, however, seemed unfazed, his demeanor calm and composed. "There are many rooms available, so there is no problem with you staying here. However, you may become the victim of false rumors. You don't mind?"
I don't care.
Aldrich paused for a moment, considering her request. Then he made his decision. "Then?" He turned his gaze to Baron Lant. his command clear and direct. Prepare a room for her in the southern palace. Skylar's bold request had paid off. She was to stay in the imperial palace, a turn of events she hadn't anticipated when she first stepped foot in this grand room. Baron Lant gave a slight nod, accepting the king's command, though his face betrayed his reservations. As Skylar turned to leave, a small, satisfied smile played on her lips. She only wished she could see Rose's face when she found out. The news about the mysterious young woman, once a mage, now living in the southern palace, sent ripples through the court. Rumors circulated that King Aldrich planned to make her his second concubine. This news reached Rose in her room, leaving her in a state of confusion and anger.
Where is she going to stay?
Her tone was sharp, a blend of curiosity and rising fury. Viscountess Amelia, caught off guard by Rose's fierce expression, hesitated to respond. Rose clenched her fists, her mind racing back to the girl's haughty demeanor earlier that day. The pieces clicked together in her mind. The girl from the Magical Academy, Viscount Rothescue's hints, and now the unbearable thought of her becoming Aldrich's concubine.
I haven't even given birth. How could he do this?
Her frustration and disbelief echoed silently in the room. Viscountess Amelia, sensing the tension, quietly picked up the tea, hoping to escape unnoticed.
Viscountess Amelia!
Rose's voice halted Amelia in her tracks, a note of authority ringing clear.
Yes, Your Majesty. Although I am limited in what a queen can do, can I at least place guests elsewhere? Of course, Your Majesty.
Viscountess Amelia departed. Rose's mind began to churn with strategies, her arms protectively around her belly. The realization dawned on her. Blindly imitating Queen Bronwyn wasn't yielding the results she had anticipated.
After all, Bronwyn was dethroned despite her efforts. No, I need not follow her every step. I will prove to be a more capable queen.
A sense of clarity washed over her. In her efforts to please the nobles, Rose had lost sight of her own unique strengths and tactics.
I may not have won over the nobility as a queen, but I can win the hearts of the people. And as for that mage girl, I will crush her.
The upcoming tea party with the nobles, a strategic move to assert her presence and charm, would be her first step in this new direction. The Grand Hall of Stars, where the Western Empire received its most distinguished guests, was now the stage for a crucial encounter. King Henry stood before the throne, his posture regal and welcoming. On either side of the path leading to him were stationed officials and knights, an arrangement that underscored the significance of the meeting. As Duke and Duchess Troby, guided by Haxon, entered the hall, they instinctively sought out their son-in-law, King Henry. The atmosphere in the hall was one of respectful silence, punctuated only by the soft rustling of robes and the clink of armor. Duke Troby leaned over and whispered to his wife. "Look, there he stands, Bronwyn's husband."
He looks every bit the king, doesn't he?
Henry's gaze met theirs, a subtle acknowledgement passing between them. The Duke and Duchess, despite their initial apprehensions, felt a sense of pride seeing their daughter's new husband standing so confidently as a king. "His Majesty awaits. This way, please." The Duke and Duchess Troby were visibly moved by the grandeur of the Hall of Stars, a testament to the grandeur and might of the Western Empire. Yet, amidst this splendor, King Henry's presence commanded their attention. His regal demeanor, enhanced by his striking features, resonated with authority and grace. As they approached, Henry descended the steps leading to his throne with an ease that spoke of his confidence as a ruler. Extending his hands towards the Duke and Duchess, Henry's gesture was one of warmth and familiarity. "Welcome, mother. Welcome, father." Henry's use of affectionate terms in such a formal setting surprised the Duke and Duchess. It was a bold move, but it also spoke of Henry's genuine regard for them as family.
Your Majesty, it's an honor.
We're grateful for your warm welcome, King Henry.
My queen, as I fondly call Bronwyn, has missed you dearly, and so have I. Thank you for your hospitality, Your Majesty. Also, my congratulations on your title of King of the Western Empire.
Congratulations to Your Majesty.
As Henry received their congratulations, he observed them closely. The similarities between Bronwyn and her parents were striking. He could see where she inherited her strong character and striking beauty.
The days were a whirlwind of activity for me, with the endless task of reviewing the staff. Lists of names, positions, and performance reports blurred before my eyes as I delved deeper into the intricate workings of the palace. Lunch became an almost forgotten affair, something hastily consumed as I scoured pages of documents. I was expecting my parents' arrival, but my duties held me captive. Matilda informed me of their entrance to the Hall of Stars. My mother and father are here. Yes, they're with the king now. I should be there. My words were tinged with a hint of regret, but Matilda quickly clarified the situation. I was told King Henry would like to converse at this time alone with them, so Your Majesty the Queen must wait until dinner. Really? The news was unexpected. My mind buzzed with curiosity about what Henry could possibly be discussing with my parents alone. What does he want to talk to my parents about? That I don't know. Cedrica, quick to offer her theory, chimed in confidently. I think I know. What is it, Cedrica? I think he's asking them about Elisaria's weaknesses. I'm almost positive. Laura's eyes widened at Cedrica's speculation, a mixture of surprise and concern etching her features. It is a possibility. Although His Majesty may seem unconcerned, when he speaks, it is definitely not to talk nonsense. That's what my brother told me. The room fell into contemplative silence as the possibility of Henry discussing strategies against Elisaria with my parents hung in the air.
If Your Majesty does not mind, we would like to speak for a moment about Bronwyn. It's nothing urgent.
Duke Troby's voice held a note of trepidation, a father's concern barely masked by the decorum of addressing a king. The atmosphere in the room shifted, marked by his cautious tones. His request, veiled in parental concern, hovered in the air, waiting for King Henry's response.
All right.
The Duke and Duchess exchanged a glance, their unease palpable. They treaded into uncharted waters, their parental instincts clashing with the protocols of a royal engagement.
We simply wish to ask you, as parents, to take good care of our daughter.
The request hung heavily, a simple plea from the heart of every parent, yet weighted by the grandeur of its recipient.
Bronwyn means the world to us, Your Majesty.
Henry's reaction was unexpected. A warm, genuine laugh echoed in the room, easing the tension.
Isn't that obvious, father-in-law? It seems obvious, but it often isn't.
I love my wife. To be precise, it is an unconditional love. His confession, candid and heartfelt, left the Duke and Duchess momentarily speechless. You don't need to worry about it. You can rest easy. The Duke and Duchess exchanged a look of relief. Henry's words, although laced with laughter, carried the sincerity they hoped to hear. In that moment, they saw not just a king, but a man deeply in love with their daughter. The worries that had clouded their minds began to dissipate, replaced by a newfound trust in the young king before them. Do you have any childhood portraits of my wife?
Oh, we have quite a few. We'll ensure you get to see them.
The parents shared a knowing smile, their hearts warmed by the young king's genuine interest in their daughter.
Bronwyn had a big dog. She was very fond of it because they had the same birthday.
What did the dog look like? A moment of silence followed as the Duke and Duchess hesitated. Their description would oddly mirror the man before them.
Light golden fur, large and very handsome. Much like yourself, Your Majesty.
A ripple of laughter filled the room, breaking any remaining tension. Henry's puzzled expression only added to the moment's light-heartedness.
That evening, alone again with Henry, after a joyful reunion with my parents, I was eager to find out what they had discussed that afternoon. What did you talk about with my parents?
That's a secret even for my queen.
His evasion only stoked my curiosity further. What secrets could they possibly share that excluded me, their own daughter? His words, playful yet firm, only deepened the mystery. Even a conversation with my parents is a secret, despite the fact that we're married.
There is also loyalty between me and your parents.
His assurance did little to quell the swarm of questions buzzing in my mind.
I haven't done anything wrong, my queen. Don't look at me like that.
I know. It just seems like you suddenly became closer.
Don't you like me getting close to your parents?
Yes, but they're still my parents. There are boundaries. I knew the notion was absurd. Their newfound closeness was a comfort, yet the unknown elements of their conversation nagged at me.
How long will you keep asking?
The warmth of his body, creeping closer with each stealthy movement, was both unsettling and alluring. Henry's presence, now an intimate whisper against my skin, erased the distance between us. His touch, a soft, pressing sensation on my wrist, sent a cascade of feelings through me. His gaze, intense and questioning, seemed to pierce through the layers of my resolve. The sensation of his lips, tracing a path across my skin, left a trail of shivers. In a fleeting moment, the stern, majestic king transformed into a man yearning for affirmation, for a connection deeper than words or titles. The shift was so profound, so unexpected, that it left me momentarily dazed. I suppose a little distraction wouldn't hurt. As he continued his tender exploration, the room, the world outside, and the weight of our titles faded into the background.